let's get to the Tim Dillon segment that we put off yesterday because we talked too much. Luckily, Emily and I still did talk a lot, but luckily we still do have a few minutes here that we can go over it. Let's go ahead and play this. It's Tim Dillon and Joe Rogan talking about AOC and JD Vance, quote, not having it for president. Let's take a listen.
Now, why is AOC shutting her mouth about Israel? Because AOC's donors are big Israeli tech people. She's been silenced, and she's trying to run for president too.
Really?
Yeah.
She'll struggle.
She's not going to win. She's a goofball. She'll be making mojitos. She's a goofball. She doesn't have it. She's a goof. But here's the reality. She's shutting her mouth about Israel. Is AOC out there about Israel? No. No, because she's a fraud. But the smelly, gross anarcho-communists in Brooklyn, to their credit, know she's a fraud. They know she's a fraud. In between their, whatever, open mic nights and whatever, they figured out— Poetry slams and dog walking. They figured out that this bitch is a fraud. Big time.
Yeah, I don't think she was when she first started.
She wasn't, but she's realized she's ambitious.
She likes nice bags.
She likes nice bags.
That's what it is.
She's ambitious. She wants to be the president.
You realize that job can get you hundreds of millions of dollars. Look what happened.
Can you get up who her donors are, Jimmy? These Israeli tech people. It's kind of interesting because this actually just kind of came out.
Israeli startup entrepreneurs played roles in the rise of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She pulled out of an event commemorating Rabin. Some concluded that AOC doesn't like Israelis, but two were instrumental in the lawmaker's early career.
Oh,
that's where it gets weird. They find you when you're young.
They find you when you're making mojitos.
They find you when you're young and promising, like JD.
Well, that's the thing. JD's going to have to, if he wants to be the president, he's going to have to say, Peter Thiel, I'm not.
The Antichrist.
He's going to have to say, Peter Thiel is Satan, and here's why that's good. JD has to get out there and go, wouldn't you rather know who Satan is and be friends with him and have dinner with him than have it be like, who's Satan?
Right.
So he's got to get out there and say, I happen to be friends with Satan. And I want that to be
misunderstood.
I want it to be destigmatized.
Right. If Satan could go on the Nelk Boys, maybe they could straighten it out.
That's right.
The Dog Boys, that was good. So what do you think of Tim's? And I mean, we got to be a little. Look, I'm not in the business of defending AOC, but I wouldn't say that she shut her mouth about Israel.
Right.
I mean, she said genocide, right?
Yeah.
The one thing that we've hit her for here on the show with Ryan is about her vote to fund the Iron Dome.
Right.
Because, she had this whole convoluted explanation of,
and the DNC.
I support defensive act. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Look, the part about her, how she was legit in the beginning and has become a tool of the Democratic establishment, I think it's totally fair. I don't think it's totally fair to say it's about Israel, though, per se.
Yeah.
That's my only thing. I don't think he's wrong. I don't think she could be president either, specifically for those types of reasons. It's just she did basically get co-opted. And remember, she wanted to be the oversight chairman, and she played ball. She shut her mouth about all kinds of stuff. They still wouldn't give it to her.
Played ball with Pelosi.
Right,
Pelosi's
exactly.
entire tenure. Those are all fair criticisms of AOC, as is. Basically, at any point, if at any point in your career you have you rely on donors from the American donor class, you are going to end up coming into contact with people who have close ties to Israel. That's just how it works.
Well,
so it's
Mac
not
points out the worst thing she did at the DNC was saying that Kamala was working tirelessly for a ceasefire. That's pretty fair because
that was insane.
Well, now maybe the Israel thing is making sense to me because when it came, she put out the words, but she actively worked for Kamala to get elected and gave her cover on Gaza, which she did not have to do, right? And you and I were there. We were at the DNC. Yeah. You remember all those activists. Yeah. We met some of them. Yeah. They were treated horribly and they were kicked out and all. It's still pretty crazy in retrospect to have experienced that. Ryan and I interviewed a couple of them on the street and who literally were kicked out, not joking.
It's a great memory of mine, by the way. Just you and Ryan with microphones following following the hippies around the DNC.
We had a good job. We had a good time.
It was a blast.
Maybe we'll do it again. But the point is just that That's a fair criticism. But to say that she's been bought off or whatever, I'm not entirely sure that is accurate. On the JD point, though, here's what's interesting. JD had dinner with Tim very recently, by Tim's own admission. And Tim seems to be truly like captured by the Palantir Teal. He went a long time going off on the Antichrist lecture. He's like, why do you need 4 lectures? One wasn't, it was good. It was funny. I guess I'm curious for him. I'm like, so what? Like, who is the good politician? You know, he said some nice things about Marjorie Taylor Greene, which, I mean, okay. I like some of the things MTG says. Definitely, I think she's very courageous in standing up on Israel and a few other issues. But going with presidential material, I guess the reason why I thought it was important to cover is like, where does this podcast thing go?
Yeah.
Right. Trump was the perfect vehicle for them because he's entertaining, fun to talk to. Good stories. Totally. You could project whatever you want onto him, even though he's literally been the president before, and you can be like, no, but he's different, this time around. But where does it go from here? Like, to me, it just seems like pretty nihilistic, but I really have no idea.
Well, yeah, this question of who has it or who doesn't is the reason we're asking it in a way that's not like, oh, Al Gore is very charming, is because we've entered a new chapter in media history, which is if you're in Gen Z, you grew up expecting politics to look like reality television through no fault of your own, but because politics started to merge with smartphone and social media in a way that it's hard if you're younger to trust people who don't come across well on the popular mediums in smartphone world. So if you can't have a normal conversation, right? It used to be the sit down at a bar test, right? Yeah. But now it's more like sit down on an Instagram Live, which, by the way, AOC does a lot of Instagram Lives, and others don't. But that's just because there's something about speaking contemporary or speaking in real time in a way that feels authentic to people. I think that's really what Tim Dillon is talking about with Marjorie Taylor Greene, or Thomas Massey is another example who, Massey had success on Theo Vaughn. Like, that's gotten tons and tons of views. I think the reason is to sound authentic right now, you have to absolutely flame the donor class. You have to be willing, in ways that Gavin Newsom is not, in ways that Hakeem Jeffries or these other guys are not. And that's a lesson for AOC too. That's how she used Instagram and X successfully to take a seat away from Joe Crowley when nobody thought it was possible. Zohran Mamdani did the exact same thing. And it's just about leveraging those mediums in a way that resonates. And that's what I think Tim is saying when he's like, can JD do that?
Well, no, and I think part of the reason why is Trump is the Republican establishment. So how can you be against the Republican establishment? You can't be anti-establishment and speak out against
Peter Thiel is now the Republican establishment. Yeah.
Well, it's not. I think the Thiel thing is a proxy for whenever he was on Theo Vaughn's podcast, and JD gave it, he was like, well, I take money from a lot of people. Yeah. Theo came out and he's like, yeah, I just thought that was like some typical political bullshit. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it is kind of a problem. Like, I do get, like, you don't want to talk badly or whatever about friends or people who've donated to you, but, it makes you look bad. Look, personal loyalty and all that stuff is important, and it is hard. I can even speak from experience. You have to cover people who you literally personally know. It's weird. Yeah. But at a certain point, like, you have a higher and better calling to your job, right? And to say kind of what you think. That seems to be the issue. And part of the reason I think Republicans are really going to struggle post-Trump, because you can't say anything that's bad about Trump if he's still alive. Yes. It's not possible in the age of the cult.
Maybe especially if he's not still alive and he's a martyr.
Right, yeah. Well, I don't know what's harder. I actually think if he's not alive, it's much harder. But sorry, if he's alive, it's much harder. Because he can literally sit there from Mar-a-Lago, destroy you if he wants to. He's never going to leave the political stage. Whereas Democrats, they have no sacred cows anymore. Yeah. Kamala's done. Her book excerpt just came out, and she's trashing Biden. Right? It's over. That all the Obama, Kamala, Biden worship, etc. This is permission to say, I wish more of them would go weapons free, flame them. You need to.
Oh yeah,
that's what people want to see.
Exactly, that's what people want to see. And this is the question about. I actually thought JD did fine in that Theo Vaughn interview, but the problem is the clips, right? Yeah. If there's a clip that comes out of you, it doesn't matter if the 2 hours, I mean, it does matter if the 2 hours is great, but it can be sort of
you have to be on all the time.
That's exactly. And I thought, that means you have to be basically like doing reality TV honesty at all time. And that's what politicians need to get used to, is saying stuff like, listen, I'm just friends with Peter Thiel.
Right, that's right.
That's the way you have to handle it. But all that is to say, we're also in a transition period right now. So there are still people boomers, whomever voting, probably some elder millennials, for example, who grew up in a different time than Zoomers and are deeply uncomfortable with voting based on who's good on a podcast don't like Mamdani and don't, that's Mamdani's pulling at what these amazing polling levels for the politics that he brings to the table, but he's still under like 50%, right?
Yeah, somebody asked me, they were like, do you think politics will ever go back to normal? And I was like, I really don't know.
Yep, I agree.
Because look, we did try it under Biden. A lot of people were like, exhale a fresh air. Let's get Biden in there. He's normal.
Yep.
But it was a disaster because normal is bad. I've been trying to tell people that my entire political career.
Yep.
Normal is actually way worse than not normal.
Yep.
We need to be very, very not normal. To the extent Trump is bad is because he's not he's too normal. Actually, he's too normal of a normal Republican, like acting like George W. Bush while he's in office, but just with mean tweets or whatever. So what comes next? I don't know. I mean, I could see an easy return to, I could see a fighter under Gavin who rhetorically is just like Trump, right?
Yep.
Rhetorically a fighter, policy level, like very similar.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see that happen easily. I mean, I believe he's one of the top pollers. The alternative is a Trump-style figure who comes in and just knocks everything over. I hope for the latter.
Or a Bernie-style figure,
or a
by
Bernie,
the way.
Maybe. I'm not sure if that's even possible anymore.
Yeah,
I'd like to think so. I'm not sure.
But Bernie is actually really good in new media, which people like. He crushed Theo Von because he's generally honest and he doesn't cover for donors. He doesn't.
I just think he's one of one. I don't see anybody else.
Same with Trump. Yeah,
I
exactly.
do not see, and that's why I was like, maybe it will go back to normal because nobody is as talented as these people.
I think that's an absolute possibility, right?
I really do.
And again, like it'll always be a tug of war between the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and now the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and maybe like the Ilhan Omars on the left, and then the traditional politicians. Even if the presidency kind of goes back to normal and Washington feels like, it's 1999 again, if that happens, there'll still be a tug of war in the background between the new media stars
That's true.
and the old ones.
Well, in a way, it's still downstream of our circumstance. We can't go back to 1999 politics because it's not 1999. 1999 was a great year.
It sure
the
was.
S&P 500 was booming. No 9/11. We had the early days of the optimism. Man, I mean, I was so young. I wish I could have been an adult in the year 1999 with my Nokia phone. I mean, I would just been cruising.
Dude, a beeper maybe?
What a world to live in and to think about what a world to live in and to think about where things could go. And then it just all comes crashing down with .com and 9/11. I guess that was part of the point. That was part of the price that you pay for that moment. But it must have been awesome to live through. I'm genuinely envious.
You and
of
I
the
share
adults.
the exact same theory. I think it's possible that civilization peaked in 1999 or 2000.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I think that. In America specifically, the peak of the American empire was 1999. All right, there you go. We've given you all of our thoughts. Emily, thank you very much for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
No, it's wonderful. But we haven't given you all of our thoughts because we will still give you more thoughts.
We're doing the AMA. Don't worry. Yeah, don't worry. Stick around for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be on tomorrow with Crystal. We'll see you then. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show. Help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.